Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire people to birth confidence and self-worth, to birth their books and business ideas, dreams, passions, and goals, as well as help them discover peace amongst infertility. After going through my own sets of traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we all experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your hardships and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's episode is called Warrior Fatigue. And some points we'll cover are discussing why burnout is on the rise, how can we eradicate burnout and overwhelm, and balancing the masculine and feminine energies within. And I have my friend here, Kim Dech, to speak on this topic. Kim is a feminine leadership Guide-ess and the founder of the Inner Powered Leaders. She is passionate about helping female changemakers step into their inner feminine power and leave overwhelm and burnout behind so they can increase their confidence, lead authentically, and inspire others to impactful change and action. She is a sought-after speaker, workshop facilitator, and feminine coach. Kim is a catalyst for transforming the rules of female leadership by offering a different approach, one that recognizes and values women's experiences, feminine nature, and potential. Welcome, Kim, to the show.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here.
You know, it's so cool. We've been friends a long time. We were in the same town together, and then we ended up kind of evolving into our own personal growth journeys, and it's been incredible just kind of watch each other grow and step into our own path. It's been a great experience just to watch you.
Yeah, thank you. And you also. And I feel we're pretty parallel. We kind of started at the same time. We've shared a lot of struggles that we've been through, but also been able to celebrate too. And so what better way of, being able to move forward in our business and our passion than to share it with other supporting amazing women.
Exactly. And just kind to, practice what we preach about female empowerment, because we do have parallel journeys. And I have been very honest in the past, you can get competitive with other women that are in your similar field. And I think we're both really working to debunk that, to stop that, to raise women up, to join hands together and support one another. And I just love that we're on this together talking about that female empowerment.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Awesome. So we touched on your bio a bit there, but can you just walk us back through your story and what led you to the path you're on today?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. So I would say about 15 years ago was kind of when my life shifted. I completely burnt out. I was a school teacher and hit burnout, went into a depression, and from there, I really started looking after myself and thought I was doing really well. I got married. I had 2 daughters. And after my second daughter, I went into postpartum depression. And that lasted for about 10 years, up and down. Severe anxiety, suicidal thoughts. And what ended up happening was I really made the choice that I had to make myself priority, and I had to do everything in my power to get better. And so between being on medication, medical doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, naturopath doctors, energy healing, I slowly crawled out of what I called was my deep, dark pit that I was in. And about 4 years ago, when I was feeling really, really good, maybe 5 years ago, I was helping my daughter, and my daughter was having an anxiety attack. And while I was just sitting on her bed, this voice came to me, and it said, "This is why you had to go through what you did so that you can help her heal and help others." And at that moment, everything changed. And I knew that I had to share my story and that I needed to help others. And so I became an energy healer. I became a body talk practitioner and access bars. I opened my own business and I started doing energy healing. And what I found, though, was that people were coming to me and they wanted the healing, but they also wanted advice, guidance, and they wanted to share their story. And so then I decided, well, I need some more schooling. So I went back and I became a certified integrative mental health coach and really started working, coaching and doing the energy healing together. And then, when I looked at the clientele, which I loved helping, all of them were in their deep, dark pit. And I started really looking at people and thinking, what if we could just stop people from going into the pit in the first place? What if we just focused on prevention? And that then really became my focus and my passion. And I really started looking at the people that came to me majority of the time were women. And how can I help these women? And I started looking at where do we spend majority of our time? Well, at work. And so how are we looking after mental health and leadership at work? And I started working with companies. But a lot of companies are not ready for me, and they're not ready quite for the thought that we should be preventative about mental health within the workplace. And so now I've just been working directly with women leaders because I feel that if we can work with them and change their vibe, we can actually then begin that ripple effect that will start then going into the workplace, and we can start affecting other people who want to make impact, and it will just continue from there. So I really, right now, I just want to start the domino effect of prevention and, really connecting with our mental, our physical, and our spiritual health.
I love that. And you're so right. We're not quite, as a society, as a culture, ready to take those drastic measures to prevent. I think we've gotten the buy-in in the last 15 years that we need to focus on mental health, and it is less taboo, but we have still so much ground to gain because we're not quite there yet as a collective to say, hey, hold up, we need to actually change the whole way of doing things rather than constant reaction. I think we have programs in place to definitely deal with the fallout. But like you said, how do we prevent the fallout in the first place? Right?
Yeah. And everyone, a lot of it is to do with money, right? It costs money. But, I'm always trying to say, but the return is unbelievable, right? And I think that, unfortunately, I feel like the more our world spirals down, and until maybe we hit more of a rock bottom, it might take that before everyone starts to decide, oh, yeah, we need to get on this preventative train.
Yeah, and it's just like anything, it's a process, and we keep being loud about it, keep, infiltrating different circles that we can, connect the dots. And I think that's so important because many times we don't see the connection, and that's the issue. We need to have these big, important, leaders and change makers that are out there in the world that can infiltrate from the top down, is that we have to connect the dots. Everything is connected. Mind, body, soul. Your work is connected to your relationship in your home life, your health. It's all connected. And when we can start really showcasing the connection, and that was with me, what made me realize that I needed to work on mental health is the connection that my autoimmune disease was connected to my self-hatred. No one ever connected the two. And so when we can make those really very profound connections and state them, then you're going to get the more buy-in by people that everything is connected, including our mental health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
So, we're in these critical times with pandemic and life in general. We have seen a huge spike in people feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. There's suicides, massive, mental health issues surfacing because of the massive pressure and circumstances we're under. So with lots of focus on mental health, even now, like 15 years in, that we've seen the new light on mental health, why do you think so many are still feeling the pressure of mental health and burnout?
Yeah. Well, let's just look at life without a pandemic first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, we have a society that puts pressure on us, that are putting out unrealistic expectations, and we are accepting it as the norm. So we expect that we should be making more money than the person beside us, that we need to hustle and grind more so that we can make more money. We need to work more hours. We need to keep up, we need to have a nice house. I need to have a nice body. I need to be the best mom. And we compare ourselves to everyone. And when we continue to say that this is the way life should be, we just continue to cause stress. And we know that stress is the number one health hazard in the world. And so people are just getting more and more exhausted. We also feel more and more less than. And we just keep trying and trying to meet these expectations that we cannot meet. And that is what is going to continue the overwhelm and the burnout if we don't start to shift it. Now, let's add a pandemic on top of all of that. Mm-hmm. And now we have felt, when the pandemic first hit, let's say the first 2 to 3 months, some people had never felt that amount of emotions in such a short amount of time, between fear and anxiety and being sick, worrying. And so when we put that layer now on top of it, it just adds to everything that was already there. And so I truly believe we have to change our norm because we cannot stay the same anymore. Our mental health and our physical health will not be able to stay with it. And so I truly believe it's a societal problem.
Totally. And I think isolation is another,
yes.
whole pocket that we didn't know how, it was like we did our whole life, and we live in a we have access to travel, we have access to go things and do things, and all of a sudden complete shutdown overnight, and there was really no way to help us cope with that. We didn't know how we would feel with that. On paper, it may look like it's not such a big deal. You just adjust, but it doesn't work like that. And
no,
having to adapt without buying into that my life is over and I'm so isolated and the depression comes in, it's a snowball effect. How do we adapt, right? How do I be okay with being stuck at home for months and months and months and almost a year now, and really not having access to those outlets and places to get that recharge and place to get that connection? And it's we need to be loud, like you and me and all the people that are in our kind of, sphere of getting loud of how to change how we look at connection and get us out of that isolation, even amongst being isolated, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, some of this connection has also, what's been happening is that it's forced some people to have to sit quietly with their own stuff. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how to do that. And we don't know how to connect to ourselves. And so then we crave even more the lost connection that we have outside of us. And which just then adds to that stress within that.
It is. And that we talk about the sympathetic nervous system being in that fight, flight, or freeze, being in that complete protection survival mode. And that's good when we're facing a bear and we need to run and adrenaline pumping and fast reaction. But a pandemic, and we thought maybe a few months and we could handle that. We're in survival mode. But this is close to a year now. And that's where you're constantly in stress mode and your body that's not built to handle that. It's built to do immediate stress protection mode, not long term. So now we have to take steps, like drastic steps on our own to get ourselves into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, even amongst the stressors, right?
Absolutely. And that's the hard part, right? Is deciding how can I do this when we are amongst the chaos.
Right. The bear is still here. Like it didn't go away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not going to for a while. Right? So it's coming to acceptance of that and then how to move forward.
Exactly. So moving forward, we are both advocates of helping people tap into their power and help them move forward, even amongst and coexist with these stressors. So let's maybe unpack that a bit and discuss ways to actually eradicate burnout and overwhelm in our society while the bear is still here, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, the first thing, for me, my power process is kind of head, heart, hands. And I truly believe we have to be able to slow down our minds first. We are just on constant go, 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 go. And I mean, we know that women have a brain that as soon as we have one thought, we have 1,000 thoughts, right? And some men do too, but we just know men have a nothing box. We do not. And so it's being able to be mindful. And a lot of times people hear that word and they're like, oh, don't like that word. That's woo-woo, right? So all I'm going to say is it's just being present in the moment because we are living so far into the future. And we might be just living in tomorrow or the next day, but we're worrying about it, right? And just like we're talking about this pandemic, it's not going away. And it's the uncertainty of it all. And so we can get control of that if we can bring ourselves back to being in the moment. And so, that is different breathing activities. That is, we can say meditating, but meditating looks different for every single person. Maybe it's going for a walk outside, right? And just focusing on our 5 senses for 2 minutes. Maybe it's taking mental breaks, taking 3 deep breaths every single hour. Maybe it's doing what you love, making sure that you are fitting that in, because as soon as we have joy in our life, we take a step above our stress and above feeling that overwhelm. Laughter, is another way to get it present and in the moment. When we are laughing about something, we are not thinking about our worries in the future. And it is time to look at self-care. What can I do that can help me feel better, that feeds my soul? And for some people, that might be as easy as having a bath, reading a book, right? But it's making the choice. So, first of all, it's really just how can we slow down our minds and be present in the moment? Once we have practiced that, then we can go into our heart and we can choose kindness and compassion and connection for ourselves first and then for others. And this is where kind of my, talking about feminine energy, this is where we talk about how can we connect with that feminine energy? How can we nurture ourselves? And, for me, compassion is number one if we want to end overwhelm and burnout. And compassion is how can you look at that person or that situation without all of your baggage? Mm-hmm. How can I be in that person's shoes and look at it from their perspective without feeling any of my stuff with it? And that's what we need to do. We have to start connecting with each other that we're all humans. We've lost humanity. And, we're trying to do what's right, what's wrong, who's right, who's better, who's not. And we just got to get back to, we are all human. We all have an inner child that we need to look after. And once we start choosing that kindness and that compassion and connection, then we start to take action. And within that, we start that ripple effect, right? I start then treating you kinder. Well, guess what? The more kindness you receive, the less you are to burn out. And then you will start showing kindness and compassion to others. And so now you're making yourself feel better, but now you're also helping the person, and that ripple effect continues. And we role model it. So being present in the moment is the first step so that we can end overwhelm and burnout.
Wonderful. And then is that hands as well, or what?
Yeah, sorry. So the hands is the taking action.
Oh,
so
taking
head
action.
is
Perfect.
being mindful, kindness is the heart, and then taking action is the hands. With how am I going to choose compassion and kindness in my life for myself and for others.
Wonderful. I love that analogy and that breakdown. That really puts it into an actual, very understandable way of how I can do this. How can I slow my mind? How can I start to work on my overwhelm and burnout? Because that seems like such a big thing, then people don't want to really address it because it just seems so unattainable. Yeah, everyone's overwhelmed. Everyone's burnt out. Like, how do we do this? Well, you kind of broke it down to very easy steps, just taking these 3 things and applying them, and you'll work at decreasing that feeling. Right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. And, just again, it's step by step, right? We don't want to, I always tell people that I don't give you these strategies to stress you out, because then that's totally defeating the purpose.
Exactly.
Let's start, maybe can you sit, in quiet for 1 minute a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of be aware of what's happening in my brain, and knowing that small steps, all it takes is one small step. That is taking action. That is moving forward. And I believe that for for this process that you have to start with the head, and then we go to the heart, and then the hands.
Oh, I love that. And what I always say too is like the first part of balance. It's like this isn't a complex math formula. If you cannot improve it or change it in this immediate moment, we have to learn to accept it.
Yes.
And that was a big one for me, because I am all in extremist, will not quit, will not get no for an answer. I will turn the tide with my willpower. But some things you just have to accept. And I released my depth grip on certain things and this whole overwhelmed feeling when I just understood maybe I can't change it in the moment. And that's okay. And I don't like it. Doesn't mean I accept the feeling. I just accept what is. And at the moment, I cannot do anything about it. So I'm not going to let it rule me and make me feel overwhelmed when I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, I guess this is my, when we start talking about the head, heart, hands, is that, it's about self-leadership.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about leadership with other people, but we have to be able to lead ourselves.
True.
And it's like, what does that mean? Well, that means, am I able to control my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions?
Yeah.
And we need to then practice the head, heart, hands process so that we can do that. Because we can, but it's a choice, right?
Yep.
And it takes practice to be able to have that choice even available to us.
Well, and that practice means you're not going to get it right all the time. And that's key. It's practice, but you're not. What happens when you do anything, like you're learning a new craft, you are going to look like an idiot for a long time before you get the hang of it.
Yes. And I mean, if I just think of, let me use the word meditating, right? People freak out. And I mean, for me, when I was like, I can't meditate, because that's people, my visual was people in India who could sit and meditate for 5 hours straight.
Right.
So I'm like, I can't do that. How could I not think for 5 hours? Like, that is just, we know that's not going to happen.
Right.
And, but no, let's start with 30 seconds a day and just sit and take some deep breaths. I was like, oh, well, maybe I could do that, right? And so it's knowing that, it doesn't have to look, sometimes we get these big, again, we put expectations on ourselves, right? But to start small and know that it is a practice, and a practice means that you do it over and over so that you get better at it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love this dialogue and the explanation of it. And it's not trying to put pressure on people and say you have to be perfect. It just means, like you said, choose and just do one thing and break it down, and 30 seconds at a time. And I love this. And it's really going to help people, actually want to tackle their overwhelm rather than shy away from it because it seems too monstrous to even address, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
So shifting over to the feminine and masculine energies, and this could be confusing because I am woman, therefore I'm feminine. Well, not necessarily. Like every man and woman has feminine and masculine qualities, and some are totally lean to one or the other. Some have a complete mixture. I was one with a complete mixture, and I for so long didn't realize that's good. I thought I almost had an identity, dual personality, and I thought that was bad because I am super feminine. People really don't know this about me because they see Blaise with the sword and the warrior, but I'm actually super soft and tender, very sensitive, and I love, embracing my feminine. I love all those aspects, but there's a whole other side to me with the warrior, the cape, the sword, the breathing fire, the competitive, driven woman that people mostly see in public, but they don't often see in private. And I thought I can't marry the two. But yes, the whole point of this, learning more about yourself is that you're supposed to marry them and you're supposed to dip in and out of them depending on what situation or where you are in your life. And so it's okay. And I don't think we talk about that enough. So you really dive into this. Why is it so vital to understand the differences between these two energies and how can we balance them?
Yeah, it's crazy. So people will often ask the question, why are we burning out, right? That was our first question today. And, when I look back even on my own burnout, it is because we try to fit into the norm. We try to fit into the norm of what our male energy-dominated society is right now. Mm-hmm. And when we try to fit in, when we try to be something other than what we are, we burn out. So for me, teaching, right, I put high expectations on myself. I mean, I definitely did, right? From things like, and so these are more masculine energy, and I'll kind of go through that. But as an example, my bulletin boards, before I was married and had kids, I would spend hours on my bulletin boards making sure that, they were exactly centered. I'd have my meter stick. I would measure it. Well, goodness gracious. Do you think a grade 1 is going to notice if my snowflake is in the middle of the bulletin board or not? Like, seriously. So those things like being very specific, very detail-orientated, results-orientated, that's masculine energy. And I burnt myself out with those kinds of things because when you start putting one on top of the other, right, it just builds up. And so when you had said, there's just such a misunderstanding and misconception of what feminine and masculine energy is. And innately, if we say majority of females probably have a bit more feminine than masculine, but that is not a rule, right? Mm-hmm. And men have more masculine than feminine, but we need both to be able to not burn out and to not be in overwhelm. And right now, for the world to heal, we need more feminine energy. Like it's just, we cannot do it without having more. So let's look at masculine energy is more results orientated, whereas feminine is more process. Masculine competitive, feminine collaborative. We have doing versus being, urgent versus being patient, speaking versus listening. And how about our head versus our heart, right? So we need both of those. But right now, if we want to say a balance, if we have, the old school balances where they go up and down, and, if you could see my hands right now, I'm acting it out for you. But, we are really, really lopsided with so much masculine energy in our society. And so, a lot of times what's happening is that people think feminine energy and sometimes we call them soft skills, they see that as a weakness.
Yeah.
And that's why people are not embracing them. And that is why it's my job to teach people that it's not. And I wish we could just change the wording, but we can't, because we already have these understandings. So we want to educate about it. Is that, really being in a feminine energy is that, is looking at the humanness of ourselves. And it is looking into our heart, our intuition, our creativity, our flow, our kindness. This is what our world needs right now. And so how do we balance it? Well, I'm going to go back to my power process. We have to slow down our brain. We have to decide to make the choice. What am I going to choose? Do I want to feel better or not? And we have to change to not go directly into our head. We have to go into our heart. And we have to choose. I'm going to choose kindness in this situation. And kindness might be walking away, right? Kindness might be saying what my truth is without putting down another person. So kindness is not being weak. Mm-hmm. and this is, what we're trying to teach. But if I can stay, for me and my mental health, if I can stay, I'm probably a 70-30. If I can stay 70% of the time in my feminine energy, being receptive, sensitive, being in my flow, my mental health is fantastic. As soon as I start getting into the more assertive, competitive, setting boundaries over my 30%, then I start to feel burnt out and overwhelmed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it really is. I mean, it's learning, but it's being able to slow down our brain enough that it's like, okay, what am I going to choose in this? Am I going to choose to go with my head, or am I going to choose to go with my heart? And I like to use an example of mothers, right? And this is where it comes from, is that when a baby is crying, we do not do the competitive energy. Well, the other baby isn't crying beside you. You need to stop crying, right? Or the logic is, you're tired, go to sleep. No, we can't do that. We have to go to the kindness, the flow, the sensitivity. We have to hold them, right? We have to go inward. We need to share our tenderness. This is where nurture comes from. Guess what? As adults, it doesn't change. But we feel that we don't need to nurture people anymore now that we're adults, right?
Or ourselves.
Yes, exactly. But we all have this inner child within us that needs to be nurtured. Okay, so, if we nurture ourselves, we nurture that inner child, then we begin to nurture each other, and we begin to nurture the world. And we can stay balanced when more and more people choose to stay in their feminine energy more often. Not all of the time, because we need that focus and we need that confidence and getting stuff done that the masculine energy brings us. But right now, we all need to focus on choosing our feminine energy more often. I feel like that was a really long answer to your question.
No, that was really good. And like you said, it's not weakness, but let's even expand that further, that it's powerful.
Yes.
It's not just neutral. It's not just not weakness, but it is incredibly powerful. It just looks different.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to get that across, that we need to start looking at it as wonderful power, but just in a softer way. But just like a river is flow. A river doesn't look like brute strength, but its power comes from constant, push, constant flow, it can erode a mountain by its flow, not because it's brutally pounding at something, it's just constantly flowing, the consistency, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, totally.
Love that. It's such a great thing to really unpack because, men need to dive into that too. And I know that sounds funny, but, right? Like as much as women need to be in part of their driven willpower, purpose, masculine part, men need the nurturing, the softness, the vulnerability too. It doesn't work when you're only in one. Right?
Absolutely. And, I often say to people, like when we talk about leaders, and especially if I'm talking to, a company and, of course, I'll have male and females, right, is that let's look at some amazing leaders, right? Nelson Mandela. Like, I don't know if anyone would tell me he was a bad leader, but he used his feminine energy as his power, right? Kindness and compassion was the way he led.
Yeah.
And I can get into stats, Jeff Weiner from LinkedIn, he is the CEO. And I mean, he has changed that business because he believes in compassionate leadership.
Love it.
And so, there are tons of examples of men who can do it, but we just need more of it right now.
Totally. And, that brings me to one of my final questions is that, people that really understand you need both, like me and you, and we're driven, but balance somewhat those energies, but we also do struggle with warrior fatigue. Like just because you've understood kind of your balance of the two energies doesn't mean you don't ever experience overwhelm and burnout.
Totally.
Right? And I'm in that right now. Like I'm going to be totally honest with my audience. Like I'm feeling that this whole pandemic, I've moved a few times in a shutdown,
yes.
Right? Like I'm trying to build my business and be a mom and homeschooling for part of that year. It's been a lot. I deal with a really serious health condition. It's a lot to take on. And at some point, like just now, I've had to realize I need a pause. Like I need to take inventory of all what's happening mentally, emotionally, physically, and adjust accordingly. Like in your action plan, like I have to take action. I can't just recognize I'm feeling burnt out. I actually have to take an action to alleviate it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be ending this episode as season 1 of my podcast. I'm taking a little bit of a break for myself. And that's good. That's not defeat or saying, oh my goodness, I don't get to continue. I'm in that masculine energy. Like I'm saying, hey, I'm just pushing pause. End of season. We'll come back with greater force when I'm rested, right?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Do you ever battle that? Even though you teach it?
So guess what? Guess why I teach it? Because
yes.
I battle it all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I teach what I need to hear because I need to hear it. I need the reminders all of the time. So yeah, I'm in the same place, right? Like, I feel like the lockdown, I think I did really good for 10 months. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm ready to get out and see people. And, I'm launching a membership site and things did not go according to plan on the technology side. It was out of my control, right? But it's been very stressful. But all I can say is that this is why we need to practice being present and in the moment, feeling what we're feeling. We need awareness so that we can notice how we're feeling. And so then we can act on it, like you said. So you are noticing how you're feeling. And now you're going to take a break before you get so sick, right, that you cannot do anything. The last 2.5 weeks for me, I have really, I've taken naps. I have, I've watched a little bit of Netflix. I have read, I've read 3 amazing just fiction books because I could feel myself and I knew I needed to take a step back. And, I don't know, this is the saying, you take a step back so that you can leap forward.
Yes.
And so this is part of all of self-leadership. Right? We need to role model it to the people who follow us. We need to role model it to our children that it's okay to say, holy crow, the overwhelm is happening. I need to take a step back. I need to be present in the moment. I need to be kind to myself and then decide how am I going to take action to do that.
That's amazing. And I think so realistic of like, we are not robots. We all go through these things. We all have dips and dives and peaks and valleys, but let's start talking about it and owning it, even though me and you are in this business. Well, like you said, we teach it because we battle it. Right?
Yes, that's right.
I'm talking about it because I go through it. And I said, enough is enough. I'm not going to hide behind this anymore. We're going to bring it to light. And it's almost like that disruption. And disruption doesn't mean you're here to like completely be a disruptor. It means shaking free all these old things, and it creates inclusiveness, right? It creates togetherness, connection, but you have to kind of, just like anything, slough it off. What doesn't serve us anymore, and it's not helping us. We can see this burnout, overwhelm. It is not helping us. It's affecting men, women, children. We need to take some serious different strides to create more connection within to eliminate that burnout, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is it is down to choice. And we all have the choice. And I say it often, overwhelm is a choice. And some people will be like, but, and I'm like, nope. In the end, overwhelm is a choice.
It is. And I, just in the last few weeks, I go to bed crying into my pillow, feeling overwhelmed with the circumstances and the feeling of being sick. And it's frustrating. But then I sit there and I'm like, okay, Blaise, like you said, it's a choice. I can choose to sit here every day crying in my pillow, or tomorrow I'm going to wake up and just say, you know what? It's going to turn, and I'm going to keep the faith and the hope, and I'm going to keep, listening to my body, listening to my heart, and I'm just going to take these little steps to create calm, not this overwhelm, because that's not serving me. It's every night that I'm feeling this way. Well, that's not doing anything for me. It's not working, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And now you've made that decision, right? And as soon as we make a decision, we pat ourselves on the back and be like, yes, this is what I need. And I don't know, but, sometimes then we just feel like a weight has been lifted off of us once we make that decision.
And the problem hasn't solved, but yet today I'm lighter because I'm taking a step and not becoming a victim to the overwhelm feeling. I control that feeling. Like you said, it's a choice. So I control it, even though I didn't change anything that's happening. I just changed the way I looked at it. That's all, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we could talk forever. I know
we could.
The end of the show, but I just love this dialogue and really showing the realness of it. Like we all battle. Even the warriors, we're all warriors, but we all battle, and it's okay to admit you're feeling the fatigue and take steps accordingly to eliminate that fatigue. So This is awesome. What are your next steps? What are you working on? How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, I am just thrilled to say that I'll be launching my Female Changemakers membership site in the next month. Like I said before, a little technology problems, but soon there will be a date, but it will be in the next month. And it is just amazing. And it teaches you about my power process. I have courses on there. I have expert resources, which you are one of the experts that, has resources on there. Meditations. I have a community, all the like-minded women. We gather together. There's group coaching. And if we want to even delve deeper, there's masterminds. And so it really is just about how to embrace your feminine energy to transform your leadership and leave burnout and overwhelm behind so that you can have confidence, energy, and peace. So I would, you can find me on LinkedIn at Kim Deshane, Facebook. You can join my group on Facebook, which is also called Female Changemakers. And my website is innerpoweredleaders.com, and it will be live in about 2 weeks. And if you are interested in any of this, I don't know if it's possible or not, Blaise, but to have just put my link to my wait list for all of that in the notes.
Absolutely. I'll put it in my podcast notes.
Then I can just keep people up to date.
Wonderful. That's so amazing. And I love the work that you're doing, keeping you and being such a warrior. It's fantastic. So we'll just recap what we talked about today: connecting the dots with mental health, identify the unrealistic expectations put on us, and just say no. That's not acceptable anymore. Practice head, heart, hands, slower minds, choose kindness and compassion, and take action. Also balancing our feminine and masculine energies. Thank you so much, Kim, for coming on today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
If you want to learn more about my consulting programs, purchase my book, or have me speak at your next event, visit blaisehunter.com. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable, lean into those difficulties, and have these open conversations so we can rise up as the heroes of our lives and let us breathe fire together. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe and support Blaise the Trail podcast. Reviews are always welcome and very much appreciated. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.